జ్ఞాపకం ఎక్కడ జరిగిందని చెప్తాను. నువ్వేంగా పని చేస్తాను.
నీకైతే జ్ఞాపకం లేదు. వాళ్ళ హాస్పిటల్కి వచ్చేవరకు జ్ఞాపకం అన్నది కూడా లేదా? ఎట్లా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నా? Majority short number.
He was short. No, he improved.
ఏం తెలియదు, ఎంత జరిగిందో తెలియదు. కొద్ది కొద్దిగా వెరీ గుడ్.
Negative program was 70% burns and 70% face and body.
will also come out from
He's interesting, conscious. Yes, conscious respond also.
బాగున్నావా? ధైర్యంగా ఉండు, అన్ని చూసుకుంటాం. ధైర్యంగా ఉండు, ఏం కాదు. నీకు కొన్ని ఇబ్బంది అన్నీ చేస్తారు. ధైర్యంగా అన్ని చూసుకుంటా. నేను దేవుడిగా పర్యవేక్షిస్తాను, అన్ని చూస్తున్నాను. అందుకే ఇక్కడికి వచ్చాను, మీకు ధైర్యం చెప్తాను. ధైర్యం అధైర్యపడడం చూస్తున్నాను. పిల్లలు ఏం చేస్తారు?
6th class, 4th class.
ఏ ఊరు మమ్మీ? ధైర్యంగా చూసుకుంటారు. డ్రెస్ జరిగింది ధైర్యంగా మీరు ఆత్మ చూసుకుంటారు. అంతా బాగా చూస్తున్నారు. ఇక్కడ బాగా ఏ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ధైర్యంగా ఇప్పుడు హైదరాబాద్లోని ఎంత ఫీల్ అవుతున్నావు? ఏం కాదు, అన్నీ బాగా అవుతాయి. నువ్వు నార్మల్గా ఉంటావు. నేను డాక్టర్స్ అన్నీ చెప్పాను. అందరూ జాగ్రత్త చూస్తున్నారు. నిన్ను బాగానే చూస్తున్నారా? జరిగింది దురదృష్టంగా. ధైర్యంగా ఉంది. ధైర్యం అవసరం. ఏం ప్రమాదం లేదు. చిన్న చిన్నవన్నీ ఇది చేయాలి, చేస్తారు. బాగయ్యే వరకు నేను సమీక్ష చేస్తాను. ఇవన్నీ సరేనా? వెరీ గుడ్. వేరుగా ఉంటుంది. కావాల్సింది నేను చేపిస్తాను. ఎంతైనా ఖర్చు పెడతాను. ఏం భయపడదు, ఏం కాదు. బాగున్నావు. ఈ ధైర్యం నువ్వు ఒకేసారి ఆలోచించు. నువ్వు రికవర్ అవుతున్నావు అంతే. రోజులు అంతే. మళ్ళీ మామూలుగా నువ్వు బయట తిరిగి మళ్ళీ నువ్వు పని చేసుకుంటున్నావు. ధైర్యంగా ఉండాలి. నీకు ఏం కావాలి అన్నీ చేస్తాం చేసి మళ్ళీ ధైర్యంగా అదే ఎంత ఖర్చుగా పెడతాం మంచి బాగా చేస్తున్నారు ఇక్కడ పేరెంట్ ఎంత ఫీల్ అవుతున్నావు ధైర్యంగా ఉంటే ఏం కాదు తొందరగా ఇంటికి పోవచ్చు అన్ని చూసి పంపిస్తాం అన్ని ముందు నువ్వు ధైర్యంగా ఇక్కడ అధైర్యపడకూడదు జరిగిందిరా అని బాధపడదు ఇవన్నీ మేము తీసుకుంటాం జరిగింది దురదృష్టం దానికి మేము అందరం అండగా ఉన్నాం పేరెంట్ పెళ్ళయిందా ఎందులో కొన్నా మనం డిగ్రీ చేసి ఉద్యోగం చేస్తున్నావా జ్ఞాపకం ఉందా నీకు ఇన్సిడెంట్ ఎంటర్ అవుతుంది టెన్షన్ ఉన్నాయమ్మా ఏం కాదు ధైర్యంగా ఉంటుంది ఇవన్నీ నార్మల్గా ఉంటుంది చేస్తారు మా అన్ని బాగా చూస్తున్నారా నీకు ఏం కాదు అన్ని రికవర్ అవుతుంది ఏం చూడండి ఏం కాదు ఏం భయపడదు ధైర్యంగా సరేనా డబ్బులు కూడా ఒక ఎంపీ చేసుకుంటే ఒక బ్రష్ ఇస్తారు ధైర్యం ఓకే మీరెవరు?
మహేష్ బాబు సార్ మీరు ఫస్ట్ మాట్లాడలేదు.
ఫస్ట్ మాట్లాడాను. చక్కగా ఉంది కానీ అభిప్రాయపడ్డాడు.
చంద్రశేఖర్ సార్
ఎన్నో పెట్టారు. చంద్రశేఖర్ టీచర్ ఎస్కోట్ అతనా బాగానే ఉన్నట్టు చూశాను నేను. ఉన్నాడు బాగానే ఉన్నాడు.
ఫస్ట్ పేజ్ సుభద్రాపురం శ్రీకాకుళం జిల్లా సార్. ఇది 24% బర్న్స్. 24%
ఫస్ట్ పెట్టేది. రెండో బెడ్ వచ్చి 50. చంద్రశేఖర్ గారు రెండో బెడ్. అదే చాలా వరకు ఇది ఉంది. మీకు ఇది పర్లేదు, 24% ఏం కాదు, బాగానే ఉంది. రికవర్ అవుతున్నాడు. కొద్దిగా లాస్ట్ లో వచ్చినటువంటి ఈ పెంకులు వస్తాయి కదా, అవి అక్కడక్కడ ఇది దాన్ని తీసేసి ప్లాస్టిక్ సర్జరీ చేస్తారు. నార్మల్ మీరమ్మా థర్డ్ ఎల్కోట్ అమ్మా బాగానే ఉన్నాడు. 10% బాగున్నాడు. చూసాను 10% ఐ ఇంజరీ ఉంది మాట్లాడాడు. ఇది ఎస్కోట కదమ్మా, ఎస్కోట్ నియోజకవర్గం మాట్లాడాడు. బాగానే ఉన్నాడు. ఆయనే చెప్పాడు రాజబాకలో ఉన్నాను నేను, కాపురం అనేది ఎస్కోట్ నాదని చెప్పాడు. ధైర్యంగా మీరమ్మా
ఇది 6
చూసిన ఏ పెట్టింది నారాయణరావు లాస్ట్ చూసారు. చాలా బాగున్నాడు, ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. లాస్ట్ కంటే ముందు అదే లాస్ట్ అబ్బాయి అన్మ్యారీడ్ హోమ్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ. అతను ఎవరు? అతను హోమ్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ ఏంటి? హోమ్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ
శివరత్నం
నారాయణరావు బాగానే ఉన్నాడు. వేరే వాళ్ళే చూడక్కర్లేదు. మనిషి ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. ఆయన అందరికంటే ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. అవన్నీ కాదు, అవన్నీ కూడా ఆపరేషన్ చేస్తారు, చిన్న చిన్న తీసేస్తారు. వేరే వాళ్ళే చూడక్కర్లేదు. మనిషి కూడా అందరికంటే ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. అందరికంటే మీరు ఉంటే మీరు అదే పడి మీరు ఏడ్చోవాలి, వాళ్ళని గౌరవం చేయండి. దానివల్ల అదే పడిపోతారు. అట్లా కాకుండా మీరు వినప్పుడు ధైర్యంగా ఉండండి, వాళ్ళకు కూడా ధైర్యం చెప్పండి. అదే ఇప్పుడు కావాలి. తొందరగా రికవర్ అవుతారు. బాగా సీరియస్గా ఇంజనీర్ అందరికీ ఒక 50 లక్షలు ఆర్థిక సహాయం చేస్తాం. మామూలుగా దెబ్బతిన 25 లక్షలు ఇస్తాం. వీళ్ళందరికీ ఒక 50 లక్షలు డబ్బులు ఇస్తాం. మీరు ధైర్యంగా ఉండండి. మీరేమో అధైర్యపడదు. అంత ట్రీట్మెంట్ ఎంతైనా ఖర్చు పెడతాం. నేను అందుకే వచ్చాను. నిన్నటి నేను మానిటర్ చేస్తున్నాను. జరగకూడదు, జరిగింది, అది మన చేతల్లో లేదు. కానీ ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలో నేను చేసి చూపిస్తాను. సరేనా? 57% ఉందమ్మా. కానీ అందరికంటే అతను ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. చూశాను. ఇంజనీర్ కదా ఆయన, ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. నేను మాట్లాడాను. మీరేమదే
అందరికీ సార్ కౌన్సిలింగ్ కూడా ఇప్పించమన్నారు. అందరికీ కౌన్సిలింగ్ కూడా చేస్తారు.
బయట వాళ్ళు కూడా చెప్పి వాళ్ళ ధైర్యం ట్రీట్మెంటే కాకుండా ధైర్యం కూడా చెప్పాలి. ఒక్క అతను నేను ఫస్ట్ రెండో అతను మీకు చెప్పిన కూడా చంద్రశేఖర్ మహేష్ బాబు ఏంటంటే ఆ సంఘటన జరుగుతానే షాక్ అయ్యాడు. నేను అడిగాను నీకు జ్ఞాపకం ఉందా? లేదు సార్, అప్పుడప్పుడు జ్ఞాపకం. దాంతో ఒక రోజంతా సఫర్ అయ్యాడు. దెబ్బల కంటే అతనికి షాక్ ఎక్కువ వచ్చింది. దెబ్బలు తక్కువ, మెంటల్ గా షాక్ అయ్యింది. ఇప్పుడంతా బాగుంది. ప్లాస్టిక్ సర్జరీ కూడా చేస్తారు. నేను అన్ని మానిటర్ చేస్తున్నా, నిన్నటి నుంచి చేస్తున్నా. మా ఆఫీస్ సెక్రటరీ కూడా మానిటర్ చేస్తుంది. సెక్రటరీ హెల్త్ ఇక్కడికి వచ్చారు, అందరూ ఉన్నారు. అన్ని చేసి తిరిగి పంపిస్తున్నారు. ఇక్కడ ఎంపీలు ఉన్నారు, ఎమ్మెల్యేలు అందరూ. విశాఖపట్నంలో అక్కడ తెలుసు కదా, ఉన్నారు. దీంతో ఇలాంటి సంఘటనలు జరగకుండా ఏం చేయాలో కూడా చూస్తున్నాం. మళ్ళా పునరావృతం కాకుండా చేద్దాం, ధైర్యంగా ఉండండి. అన్ని విధాలు ఓకే. అందరికీ నేను అవన్నీ కూడా ఏమంటాను, మీరు వచ్చి చూడడానికి ఉండడానికి అవన్నీ అరేంజ్ చేస్తాను. ఓకే, పూర్తిగా ఏం కదా నువ్వు ఏడకూడదు. ఏడిస్తే ఏమవుతుందంటే నువ్వు ఆయన ధైర్యపడతావు. ఆయన ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు, నువ్వు ధైర్యంగా ఉండాలి. ఏం కాదు, మళ్ళా వచ్చి ఉద్యోగం చేస్తున్నాడు. కొన్ని రోజులు సరేనా? అదే నా బాధ్యత. సరేనా? ధైర్యంగా ధైర్యంగా అందరికీ నమస్కారాలు. నిన్న ఫార్మాసిటీలో జరిగింది దురదృష్టకరమైన దీనిని చాలా తీవ్రంగా ఖండిస్తున్నాం. నాకు చాలా బాధేసింది. ఈ ప్రభుత్వం అన్ని జాగ్రత్తలు తీసుకొని గడచిన ప్రభుత్వం చేసిన వ్యవస్థల్ని సర్వనాశనం చేశారు. అవన్నీ బాగు చేసే కార్యక్రమంలో ఇలాంటి సంఘటన జరగడం చాలా బాధిస్తుంది. అయితే ఈ సంఘటన వల్ల దగ్గర 17 మంది చనిపోయారు, 36 మంది దెబ్బలు తగిలాయి, 10 మందికి మేజర్ దెబ్బలు ఉన్నాయి, 26 మందికి మైనర్ అయినాయి. ఇప్పుడే అందరినీ కలిసి వాళ్ళతో మాట్లాడాను. ఇంకో పక్క 57 మందికి బల్బ్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. 57 ఒక అతను అయితే 57% మంది చాలా ధైర్యంగా ఉన్నాడు. నేను డాక్టర్ పర్వాలేదు నార్మల్ గా రావాలి. దానికి నేను కూడా ఎప్పుడు కూడా మానిటర్ చేస్తాం. ఇంకొక అతనికి 24% ఉన్నాయి, ఇంకొక అతనికి 15% ఉన్నాయి, ఇంకొక అతనికి 10% ఉన్నాయి. నలుగురితో 7 మందితో మాట్లాడాను. ఒక ఆయన షాప్ లో ఉన్నాడు, ఆయన కూడా ఇప్పుడు రికవర్ అయ్యారు, బాగానే ఉన్నాడు. అందరితో మాట్లాడిన తర్వాత డాక్టర్తో కూడా బస్సులు ఆదేశాలు ఇచ్చారు. ఎట్టి పరిస్థితుల్లో అన్ని విధాలా మానిటర్ చేస్తున్నాం. చాలా దురదృష్టకరమైన సంఘటన. దీనికోసం చనిపోయిన అదే సమయంలో సీరియస్ గా ఇంజనీర్ జరిగిన వారికి 50 లక్షలు ఇస్తున్నాం, 25 లక్షలు ఇస్తున్నాం. ఏ మాత్రం కూడా ఎవరికి ఇబ్బంది లేకుండా ఆ కుటుంబాన్ని ఆదుకునే బాధ్యత కూడా తీసుకుంటాం. విశాఖపట్నం నాకు మనసుకు దగ్గరైన స్థితి. 3 రోజులే ఏ విధంగా చేసామో మీరందరూ చూశారు. ఎప్పుడూ ఒక మంచి పని ఇలాంటి స్థితిలో నేను మొత్తం ఈ యొక్క సేఫ్టీ మెజర్స్ ప్రతిష్టాపన చేయాలి. భవిష్యత్తులో ఎలాంటి సంఘటన జరగకూడదని ఆలోచించే సమయంలో ఒక దురదృష్టకరమైన సంఘటన
బాధాకరమైన సంగతి జరిగింది. ఏదేమైనా దీన్ని ఇదే ఎవరిది కావాలని నేను కోరుకుంటున్నా. నేను అన్ని విషయాలు మళ్ళీ అక్కడ నేను మాట్లాడతాను. ఇక్కడ చూసిన తర్వాత తొందరలో దిక్కమడతారని ఒక ఆశాభావం వాళ్ళు చూస్తే జరిగినప్పుడు మనం అండగా ఉండి మళ్ళీ వాళ్ళు మామూలు వ్యక్తులుగా తయారు చేసే వరకు మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఉంటుంది. మేనేజ్మెంట్ లో జరిగిన అవకాశాలు కూడా అధ్యయనం చేస్తున్నా. అది సెపరేట్ ఏం చేయాలో ఇంకా నేను బ్రాడ్గా ఉండే రికమెండేషన్ తీసుకుంటా. దాని పేరు ఏం చేయాలో పగడ్బందీగా చేయడానికి అన్ని చర్యలు ఉన్నాయి. పరిహారం తాత్కాలికం జరిగిన నష్టాలు పరిహారం కుటుంబాలు సర్వే కావాలి. శాశ్వతంగా ఇలాంటి జరగకుండా చేయడం మన బాధ్యత. ఎలాంటి కొర్రీలు లేకుండా, ఎలాంటి ఆంక్షలు లేకుండా, ఎలాంటి షరతులు లేకుండా, ఎలాంటి కట్టింగులు లేకుండా, ఎటువంటి డ్రామాలు లేకుండా మీరు 2 లక్షల వరకు రుణమాఫీ చేయవలసిందే. మిత్తి కూడా మీరే కట్టవలసిందే అనే మాట రాష్ట్ర రైతులందరికీ కూడా నేను విజ్ఞప్తి చేస్తా ఉన్నా. ఈ విషయంలో వదిలిపెట్టొద్దు. తప్పకుండా వాళ్ళ వెంట పడాలి. నేను ఇంకొక మాట మిమ్మల్ని ఆలోచించమని అడుగుతున్నా. ఇది ఎందుకు ముఖ్యం రుణమాఫీ అంటే, ఇవాళ తప్పించుకుంటే రేవంత్ రెడ్డి రేపు మీకు రైతు భరోసా అన్నాడు. కేసీఆర్ రైతు బంధు 5,000 ఇస్తే నేను 7,500 ఇస్తా అన్నాడు. కేసీఆర్ కంటే నేను 1.5 రెట్లు ఎక్కువ ఇస్తా అని నరికిండు. ఇవాళ తప్పించుకున్నాడు అనుకో, ఇవాళ కట్టింగులు పెట్టిండనుకో రుణమాఫీలా, రేపు మీ రైతు బంధులో కూడా ఇదే కట్టింగులు పెడతాడు. ఇదే రకంగా కోసేస్తాడు. రైతు బంధు మీకు రాకుండా చేస్తాడు. యాది పెట్టుకోమని చెప్పి నేను మీ అందరిని కోరుతా ఉన్నా. ఇవాళ మీరు ఇడిచి పెడితే, ఇవాళ మీరు అయ్యో పాపం పోనీతి అంటే రేపు రైతు బంధు కూడా పోతుంది. అందులో కూడా కోత పడుతుంది. అందులో కూడా మళ్ళీ ఇదే మోసం జరుగుతుంది. నేను ఇంకొక మాట మిమ్మల్ని ఆలోచించమని కోరుతా ఉన్నా. కేసీఆర్ ఉన్నప్పుడేమో నెంబర్లు మంచిగానే ఉండే, ఆధార్ నెంబర్లు, బ్యాంక్ అకౌంట్ల సమస్య రాలే, అప్పుడు రేషన్ కార్డు సమస్య రాలే, అప్పుడు పిఎం కిసాన్ గైడ్ లైన్స్ రాలే. 72 లక్షల మంది రైతులకు 72,000 కోట్లు మీ ఖాతాలో ఇప్పుడే అక్క చెప్పినట్టు టింగు టింగు అనుకుంటా నాట్లేసే టైంకు బ్రహ్మాండంగా మీకు రైతు బంధు ఖాతాలో పడుతుండే. మరి అప్పుడు రాని సమస్యలు ఇవాళ ఎందుకు వస్తున్నాయి? ఆ రోజు లేని ఆధార్ కార్డు సమస్య ఇవాళ ఎందుకు వస్తుంది? ఆ రోజు లేని అకౌంట్ నెంబర్ సమస్య ఇవాళ ఎందుకు వస్తున్నది? ఆ రోజు లేని రేషన్ కార్డు సమస్య ఇవాళ ఎందుకు వస్తున్నది? చెప్పమని చెప్పి మనం అడగాల. ఇవాళ అధికారులు గాని ప్రజాప్రతినిధులు గాని నేను చూసిన ఇవాళ ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేటప్పుడు చేవెళ్ళ ఎమ్మెల్యే గారు స్టేట్మెంట్ ఇచ్చిండు, రైతు రుణమాఫీ అయిపోతుంది, అధికారులు ఉన్నారు వాళ్ళకి చెప్పుకోవాలి. నేను అడుగుతున్నా, రైతులు ఓట్లేసింది అధికారులకు కాదు, బ్యాంక్ అధికారులకు వేయలే. రైతులు ఓట్లేసింది ఇక్కడ ఉండే వ్యవసాయ అధికారులకు వేయలే. రైతులు ఓట్లేసింది కాంగ్రెస్ పార్టీకి వేసిండ్రు. అందుకే రైతన్నలు నేను అడుగుతా ఉన్నా, చెప్పుకున్నాడు అధికారులకు కాదు, పట్టాల్సి వస్తే గల్లా కాంగ్రెస్ నాయకులది పట్టండి, పట్టి నిలదీయండి. అవసరమైతే గల్లా బట్టి అడగాలి. ఏమాయ కొడక 2 లక్షల రుణమాఫీ అన్నావు, ఎక్కడ పోయిందని అడగాల. ఇవాళ ఇద్దరు ఆడబిడ్డలు జర్నలిస్టులు ఏం తప్పు చేసిండ్రు? వాళ్ళు ఏమన్నారు? వాళ్ళు రేవంత్ రెడ్డిని ఏమన్నా బూతులు తిట్టినరా? నీ లెక్క లాగుల తొండలు ఇడిచి పెడతామన్నారా? ఏమన్నారా? నీ లెక్క అడ్డమైన భాష మాట్లాడినరా? ఏం చేసిండ్రు? పాపం ఒక అమ్మాయి విజయారెడ్డి అనే జర్నలిస్టు, ఇంకొక అమ్మాయి సరిత అనే ఆడబిడ్డ, ఇద్దరు సీదా కొండారెడ్డి పల్లెకు పోయినరు. కొండారెడ్డి పల్లెలో నిజంగా రుణమాఫీ జరిగిందా లేదా ఇది తెలుసుకుంటందుకు పోయినరు. తెలుసుకుంటందుకు పోతే అక్కడ ఉండే కొంతమంది కాంగ్రెస్ గుండాలు వాళ్ళ మీద దాడి చేసి ఆడపిల్లలను కూడా చూడకుండా వాళ్ళను బురదల నూకేసి వాళ్ళను కొట్టి రకరకాలుగా అసభ్యంగా ప్రవర్తించి కొండారెడ్డి పల్లెలో 2 ఆడబిడ్డలకు అవమానం చేసిండు. నేను అందుకే అడుగుతా ఉన్నా, ముఖ్యమంత్రి నీకు నిజంగా చిత్తశుద్ధి ఉంటే రేవంత్ రెడ్డి ఎందుకు భయపడుతున్నావు? విలేకరులు వాస్తవాలు బయట పెడితే ఎందుకు భయం అవుతున్నది? రుణమాఫీ చేసిన మాట వాస్తవమే అయితే, రుణమాఫీ నువ్వు 100% చేసిన ముచ్చట నిజమైతే ఎందుకు కొండారెడ్డి పల్లెలో నీ ఇంటి ముంగట, నువ్వు పుట్టిన ఇంటి ముంగట 2 ఆడబిడ్డలను అవమానం చేసినావని చెప్పి నేను అడుగుతా ఉన్నా. నేను అందుకే సబితక్క చెప్పిన దాంతో పూర్తిగా ఏకీభవిస్తా ఉన్నా. మనందరం రేపటి నుంచి చేయవలసింది ఒకటే, ఇడిచిపెట్టొద్దు. మనం వెంట పడవలసింది వ్యవసాయ అధికారులు కాదు, రెవెన్యూ అధికారులు కాదు, బ్యాంక్ అధికారులు కాదు. వాళ్ళతో మనకు పంచాయతీ లేదు. మీ ఊళ్ళో ఉండే కాంగ్రెస్ లీడర్ ఎవడైతే ఉంటాడో వాన్ని పట్టుకోండి. ఏమాయ కొడక ఎక్కడ పోయింది నీ రుణమాఫీ అడగండి. ఇక్కడ పార్టీ మారిన ఎమ్మెల్యే ఉన్నాడు, ఆయనను అడగండి. ఏం చూసిపోయినావు? ఎందుకు పోయినావు? ఏం తీసుకొని పోయినావు? నువ్వు రుణమాఫీ చేయి, చేసినాక మాట్లాడని చెప్పి ఎమ్మెల్యేని అడగండి. ఓట్లు ఎవరికి వేసినామో గవాళ్ళని అడగాలి, గవాళ్ళని నిలదీయాలి. అంతేగాని అధికారుల చుట్టూ తిరుగుండ్రి, వీళ్ళ కాడికి ఓన్రి, వాళ్ళ కాడికి ఓన్రి, మనకేం ఖర్చు వాళ్ళ కాడికి పోయేది. మనం పోవలసింది మనం ఓట్లు వేసిన ప్రజాప్రతినిధుల కాడికి పోవాలి, నిలదీయాలి, అడగాలి, గట్టిగా చెప్పాలి. అక్కడ దబ్బన బీఆర్ఎస్ ఎమ్మెల్యే ఉన్నారనుకో, తప్పకుండా వాళ్ళకు పోయి దరఖాస్తు తీయండి. మా తరపున ప్రభుత్వానికి చెప్పండి, మా తరపున ప్రభుత్వాన్ని నిలదీయండి, మా తరపున ప్రభుత్వాన్ని మీరు గల్లాబట్టి అడగండి అని చెప్పి తప్పకుండా నిలదీయండి. నేను మీ అందరితో ప్రార్థించేది ఒకటే, ఇయాలడిది మొదటి అడుగు మాత్రమే. రుణమాఫీ జరిగేదాకా ప్రతి ఊళ్ళో చేవల్లో ఒకటే కాదు, రాష్ట్ర వ్యాప్తంగా రుణమాఫీ జరిగేదాకా 2 లక్షల రూపాయలు మీరు ఏదైతే మాట ఇచ్చిండ్రో, కండిషన్లు లేకుండా, కొర్రీలు లేకుండా, కోతలు లేకుండా, కట్టింగ్లు లేకుండా రైతులందరికీ రుణమాఫీ చేసేదాకా మీ వెంట పడతాం, మిమ్మల్ని తప్పకుండా వదిలిపెట్టమనే మాట రేవంత్ రెడ్డిని, కాంగ్రెస్ నాయకులందరినీ నేను హెచ్చరిస్తా ఉన్నా. మాటలు చెప్పినంత అలక కాదు ప్రభుత్వం నడుపుడు అంటే. అధికారంలో లేనప్పుడు ఏం మాట్లాడిండు రేవంత్ రెడ్డి? చెట్టుకు గట్టేసి కొట్టుండ్రి, ఎక్కువ మాట్లాడితే లాగుల తుండలు ఇడిచి పెడతా, గుడ్లు వీకి గోటీలాడతా. రేవంత్ రెడ్డి నేను నీకు చెప్తున్నా, నువ్వుగిన రుణమాఫీ చేయకపోతే ఖచ్చితంగా నీకు జరుగుతాయి, నువ్వు చెప్పిన కార్యక్రమాలన్నీ జరుగుతాయి. నిన్ను దమ్ముంటే రా, నేను మళ్ళా చెప్తున్నా, దమ్ముంటే రా. నువ్వు ముఖ్యమంత్రి 8 నెలలే అయింది, ఏ ఊరికోదామప్పా, సెక్యూరిటీ లేకుండా రా. దమ్ముంటే నువ్వు రా, నేను కూడా వస్తా. అధికారులు వద్దు, ఎవ్వలొద్దు, పోదాం. ఏ ఊళ్ళోనైనా రైతులు నువ్వు బాగా చేస్తున్నావు, బాగా నడుపుతున్నావు, అన్ని చేస్తున్నావు, టైంకు విత్తనాలు ఇస్తున్నావు, టైంకు యూరియా వస్తున్నది, మద్దతు ధర వస్తున్నది, బోనస్ వస్తున్నది, మాకు నువ్వు చెప్పిన రుణమాఫీ అయ్యింది, రైతు బంధు పడుతున్నది అని ఏ ఒక్క ఊర్లోనన్నా చెప్పరా? ఊర్లలోనే తెలుసుకుందాం. నేను మీ అందరినీ ప్రార్థించేది ఒకటే, ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేటప్పుడు మా తమ్ముడు కార్తీక్ చెప్తా ఉన్నాడు, అన్నా పాత రంగారెడ్డి జిల్లా మొత్తం రైతన్నలు చాలా మంది, కొంతమంది వ్యవసాయం చేసుకుంటూ ఉన్నారు ఊళ్ళల్లో, కొంతమంది పాపం ఇది వరకు రియల్ ఎస్టేట్ కూడా చేసుకుంటూ ఉండే, వాళ్ళ పరిస్థితి కూడా ఆగమైపోయిందన్న, వాళ్ళ గురించి కూడా మాట్లాడని చెప్పిండు. నేను మా రంగారెడ్డి జిల్లాలో ఉండే రైతన్నలందరినీ ఒక్కసారి ఆలోచించమని కోరుతా ఉన్నా. కేసీఆర్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఎట్లుండే, ఇవాళ ఎట్లయింది ఒక్కసారి ఆలోచన చేయండి. ఏ రకంగా ఇవాళ రేవంత్ రెడ్డి ప్రభుత్వం వచ్చినాక ఈ కరెంటు కోతలు, మంచినీళ్లు లేక, అదే విధంగా సాగునీరు లేక ఇవాళ పరిశ్రమలు ఉన్నాయి పోతుంటే, ఏ రకంగా రేపటి రోజున పెట్టుబడులు ఇక్కడి నుంచి తరలిపోతుంటే మన భూములకు ధరలు వస్తాయి. ఆలోచన చేయండి. ఉన్న ప్రాజెక్టులు రద్దు చేస్తాండు, ఫార్మాసిటీ రద్దు, ఎయిర్పోర్ట్ కు పోయే మెట్రో రద్దు. ఇక మన అట్లాంటప్పుడు రంగారెడ్డి జిల్లా డెవలప్మెంట్ ఎట్లయితుంది మనం ఆలోచన చేయాలి. అందుకే కేసీఆర్ గారి ప్రభుత్వం పోయిన తర్వాత మేము ఇవాళ రైతులుగా బాధపడుతున్నామనే రైతన్నలందరికీ, రాష్ట్రంలో ఉన్న వాళ్లకు నేను చేసే విజ్ఞప్తి ఒకటే, మీ తరఫున కొట్లాడడానికి బీఆర్ఎస్ ఉన్నది. బీఆర్ఎస్ అంటే భారత రాష్ట్ర సమితి మాత్రమే కాదు, బీఆర్ఎస్ అంటే భారత రైతు సమితి కూడా. తప్పకుండా రైతుల పక్షాన కొట్లాడతాం, వదిలిపెట్టాం. అక్క ఇప్పుడే ఒక మంచి మాట చెప్పింది నాకు. అక్క ఏమన్నదంటే, ఈ పోరాటం ఇక్కడితో ఆపద్దండి, రుణమాఫీని ముంగట తీసుకుపోవాలి, రుణమాఫీ అయ్యేదాకా మనం వెంటబడాలి, ఊరికి పోవాలి, ప్రతి నియోజకవర్గానికి పోవాలని చెప్పింది. ఒక్క రుణమాఫీ కాదు, నెక్స్ట్ 6 గ్యారంటీలు ఎంబడ పడతాం, అటెన్క నీ డిక్లరేషన్ ఎంబడ కూడా పడతాం. చేవెళ్ళకి వచ్చి నువ్వు చెప్పినావు ఎస్సీ డిక్లరేషన్ అన్నావు. కేసీఆర్ దళిత బంధు 10 లక్షలు ఇస్తే నేను 12 లక్షలు ఇస్తా అని నరికినావు, వదిలిపెట్టాం. బీసీ డిక్లరేషన్ అని కామారెడ్డికి పోయినావు, 42% రిజర్వేషన్ ఇస్తా బీసీలకు అన్నావు, అది కూడా వదిలిపెట్టాం. అదే విధంగా రైతు డిక్లరేషన్ అన్నావు, చాలా కథలు చెప్పినావు, ఏది వదిలిపెట్టాం. మహిళా డిక్లరేషన్ వదిలిపెట్టాం, విద్యార్థి డిక్లరేషన్ వదిలిపెట్టాం, యువతకి ఇచ్చిన డిక్లరేషన్ వదిలిపెట్టాం, మైనారిటీలకు ఇచ్చిన మాటను నిన్ను మాట తప్పితే ఏం చేయాలో చేస్తాం. ఇది కేవలం ఆరంభం మాత్రమే, మొదటి అడుగు మాత్రమే. భవిష్యత్తులో మరింత ఉధృతంగా పనిచేద్దాం. మీ అందరితో నేను కోరేది ఒకటే, మీరు దయచేసి మనం ఎవరిని కొట్టేది లేదు, రేవంత్ రెడ్డి లెక్క బూతులు మాట్లాడేది లేదు, చెడ్డ మాటలు మాట్లాడే అవసరం అసలుకే లేదు. ప్రజాస్వామ్యబద్ధంగా చాలా పద్ధతిగా ఏ ఊరికి ఆ ఊరు ఒక్కటైదాం. కాంగ్రెస్ వాళ్ళ మోసాన్ని, వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన 420 హామీలను ప్రజల ముంగట పెడదాం. ఇలా ఏమైంది, ఏం కాలేదు ఆలోచించమని కోరుదాం. చెడ్డ మాటలు మాట్లాడే అవసరమే లేదు, రేవంత్ రెడ్డి లెక్క బజారు భాష మాట్లాడే అవసరం అంతకంటే లేదు. కేవలం ఆ ఊళ్ళో ఉండే కాంగ్రెస్ వాళ్ళను ప్రజల ముంగట నిలబెట్టి గిన్ని మాటలు చెప్పిరు. మీరు కేసీఆర్ 2000 పింఛన్ ఇస్తే మీరు 4000 అన్నారు, ఏమాయ 4000 పింఛన్. కేసీఆర్ 1,00,000 రూపాయలు ఇస్తే పెళ్లికి తులం బంగారం అన్నారు, ఏమాయ తులం బంగారం. ఈ మాటలు అడిగి కాంగ్రెస్ వాళ్ళని వాళ్ళ ముంగట ఎండగడితే చాలు. కానీ అన్నిటికన్నా ముఖ్యంగా రాష్ట్రంలో ఉండే 70 లక్షల మంది రైతుల తరఫున ముమ్మాటికి బీఆర్ఎస్ పార్టీ మీకు రుణమాఫీ జరిగేదాకా, ఈ ప్రభుత్వం మెడలు వంచేదాకా ఈ ప్రభుత్వాన్ని వెంటాడుతూనే ఉంటది. మీ ఆశీర్వాదంతో, మీ దయతో, మీ యొక్క ప్రోత్సాహంతో, మీ ప్రేమతో ముందుకు పోతామని చెప్పి కూడా తెలియజేస్తూ, ఈ ముఖ్యమంత్రి, ఈ ప్రభుత్వం ఖచ్చితంగా వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన మాట ప్రకారం 2 లక్షల రుణమాఫీ చేయాలని చెప్పి మళ్ళొక్కసారి చేవెళ్ల వేదికగా విజ్ఞప్తి చేస్తూ, రైతు వ్యతిరేక ప్రభుత్వం గట్టిగా అన్ని పిడికిలు లేవాల. రైతు వ్యతిరేక ప్రభుత్వం, సీఎం కాంగ్రెస్, రైతు వ్యతిరేక ప్రభుత్వం. 2 లక్షల రుణమాఫీ వెంటనే పూర్తి చేయాలి. 2 లక్షల రుణమాఫీ వెంటనే, 2 లక్షల రుణమాఫీ వెంటనే. జై తెలంగాణ. థ్యాంక్ యూ. తమ్ముడు అందరు కూడా జాగ్రత్తగా మన ఊర్లకు మనం చేరుకోవాలా.
For your precious moments. Mark your moment with Tanishq, Festival of Diamonds.
यूं ही नहीं मैं बन जाता हूं, कुदरत के कोने कोने से खूबियां खोज लाता हूं, गुणवत्ता की गहराइयों का गोताखोर हूं मैं। यूं ही नहीं मैं रजनीगंधा बन जाता हूं।
My father, who was a bureaucrat, had become a secretary. In 1980, when Indira Gandhi was re-elected, he was the first secretary that she removed. I had no active desire to join politics at all. I mean, to me, as I said, it came as a complete surprise that the Prime Minister could even consider me. People who claim to be internationalists suddenly become super nationalist. You know, beware of such people. And I ask people, if we were being accommodative, who sent the Indian army to the LAC? Rahul Gandhi didn't send them. Narendra Modi sent them. China is an exception. And it is an exception. And please notice, I said China, China. There is a phrase, war by other means. There is also, think of it, this is politics by another means. You think the timing is accidental. I mean, let me tell you one thing. I don't know if election season has started in India and Delhi or not, but for sure it has started in London and New York. Politics of India doesn't stop at its borders. Sometimes politics of India doesn't even originate in its borders. It comes from outside. Why suddenly, there's a surge of reports and, attention and views. I mean, were some of these things not happening earlier? You had to make a documentary. Many things happened in Delhi in 1984. Why didn't we see a documentary on that?
Namaste, Jai Hind. Welcome to another edition of ANI Podcast with Smita Prakash. Today, my guest is India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. An illustrious career of 38 years as diplomat, Dr. Jaishankar was India's ambassador in China, the Czech Republic, USA, Singapore, and then finally, Foreign Secretary. He was picked up by Prime Minister Modi to be part of his cabinet in 2019 as External Affairs Minister. The articulate Dr. Jaishankar is my guest today. Dr. Jaishankar, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. Every podcast that I've done, the comment section is filled with, when are you getting Dr. Jaishankar? When are you getting Dr. Jaishankar? So today I'm really
That's
happy.
me commenting.
Okay. I don't believe one word of that. So now I'm so glad and my team is thrilled that you're here with us today. And
seriously, pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So I am going to get into the macro issues of policy matters and India's neighborhood and all in the second half of the podcast. Okay. The first half is basically a curation of all that I've been seeing on the comments section where people said, please ask Dr. Jaishankar this. So the question which most people had was that how did the transition take place from, being a bureaucrat, a career diplomat, to becoming a politician, joining Mr. Modi's cabinet? Mm-hmm. How did you make that transition? What tools did you employ?
Well, I didn't make the transition. It happened. I mean, it happened because, as you know, I come from a bureaucratic family. We don't have anybody remotely in the family who's entered politics in any party at any time. It had not crossed my mind. I don't think it had crossed the mind of anybody else in my circle. And then, lo and behold, what happened in May of 2019 happened. Now, once I entered, I must say, in all honesty, I myself was very unsure. I mean, I had watched politicians all my life. One of the things you get to do in the Foreign Service, by the way, is you actually, perhaps much more than other services, you see politicians up close because you see them abroad. You're kind of working with them closely. You're counseling them. So it's one thing to watch, but to actually join politics, to become a cabinet member, to stand for Rajya Sabha, because when I was selected, I was not even a member of parliament. So each of this kind of happened one by one. I slid into it, sometimes without knowing it. You learnt by watching others. That's something, we say sometimes you go to any foreign environment, you kind of you pick up by. So for me, this wasn't a foreign environment, but it was a different environment. So, you looked at others, more senior people, more experienced people in the cabinet, in the party, in other parties. I mean, I even today, just say, watch me in parliament. I do follow a lot. I look very carefully at what people are doing, both in my own party and other parties. I think there's a lot to learn from everybody. So you get into it step by step. Sometimes you surprise yourself. There is a learning curve. I'd be honest with you out there. There are times when you are a bit hesitant or a bit even nervous. But then, you do it once, you do it twice, you slowly grow over it. So, to stand up there, to reason with people, to make a speech, even sometimes, because in bureaucracy, until really the Prime Minister, that is 2014, Prime Minister Modi's comment, mostly people were used to speaking in English. So there was a language bit, there was a subject bit, there was a environment bit. There's a different culture also.
But as your skills as a diplomat, I guess it would have equipped you to win friends over easily, isn't it?
I don't think it's so much a question of winning friends. I mean, yes, it does help when you're a diplomat. You in a sense are almost trained, I would say,
Mm.
To get along, you know, get the most out of situations. Some of it is also different people are made different ways. You know, I mean, you would see I very rarely get into anything personal with people, even when I'm provoked at times. I think people are just made different ways. But I would say this. I mean, it's now it will be 4 years this summer. It's been a very, very interesting 4 years. I'm happy to talk with you later on about it. But when I look at these 4 years, for me, actually, it's been 4 years of very intense learning. You know, going to a state which I had really very little knowledge of. I'd been a few
Gujarat,
times
yeah.
Gujarat. You know, then having a particular area as you know, as an MP, you work on a village or in a particular constituency. So all of these were learnings, and I find it very interesting. I find every day is a new day. I'm, as you can see, quite enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. You know, when Mr. Modi picked you to be part of his cabinet and such an important portfolio, everybody thought that, you know, you'd be like a technocrat or somebody, like, you know, you bring domain expertise and you'll kind of restrict your karma into that region.
Mm-hmm.
But then one saw, you know, you evolved. You became like any BJP karyakarta, like any BJP worker. You're part of the party. You take the party line. You go to all states, not just Gujarat. You're going to Karnataka. You go to Tamil Nadu. I've seen you going everywhere. And speaking about the party, it's become part of your the political part has also become part of your making now.
Well, you know, for me, it's interesting. That's how it seems to you. But look, one, this government, this cabinet is very much a team cabinet. Okay. So you don't do your own thing out here. You know, you may have a background, you may come from a stream, but this very idea that, you know, you will do your domain, as you say, be a technocrat, I don't think it gels with what is this cabinet. Secondly, when I was selected as a minister, I was not a member of parliament. I was not a member of a political party either. I had the choice of whether I would join a political party or not. There was no compulsion on it. Nobody brought up that subject. It was something which was left to me. I joined because one, you know, when you are joining a team, you join it wholeheartedly. That is where you give your best performance and where you get the best support. And secondly, I really reflected on you know, what is the meaning of actually joining a political party. It's not a decision I took lightly. And as someone who's studied and analyzed politics all their life, it was something for me of great importance. So I joined because I genuinely believe today that this is a party which captures the sentiments and interests and aspirations of India the best. And I get into other issues because, again, one of the differences, you know, moving from bureaucracy, from a department or a service into politics, you learn so much more when you're a member of the cabinet. You know, your exposure. Every cabinet meeting, you know, there are, let's say, 10 items. You know, it could be on agriculture, could be on infrastructure, but you get a cabinet note. You read the note. You are interested. You will study a little bit more. So you actually your interest broaden, and if your interest broaden, when you go out there and speak to people, it'll show up.
Is there any difference in how Dr. Jaishankar, the diplomat, thought and operated, and how Dr. Jaishankar, the external affairs minister, politician, BJP worker, thinks and operates?
You know, see, in a way, it's like different lives, you know. Now you got to understand the challenge that it was for me personally, because I'm from a bureaucratic family. You know, my father was a bureaucrat. I have an elder brother who's a bureaucrat. My grandfather was a bureaucrat, and we have aunts and not aunts but uncles who were there. So our world, if I can put it to you this way, was very, very bureaucratic. Our goals, our dreams were bureaucratic.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, you know, if you had asked me, if you and I had met, which we had, let us say in 2010, and say, okay, Jaishankar, what's your dream? I said, I want to become foreign secretary. That's the dream of any foreign service officer. In our house, it was also particularly, it was something we put.
No, you never said that.
No,
I
because
want to put that
you never asked me.
It was in 1993, I think, that I first met you. I never
hang on.
asked you.
You never asked me that bluntly, but had you asked me that, look, it's a reasonable dream to have. I mean, after all, when you, if you start a business or you do something, you want to be the best in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
So, fine. I wanted to be the best foreign service officer. And to my mind, the definition of the best that you could do was to end up as a foreign secretary. Now, in our household, there was also, I would say, I won't call it pressure, but we were all very, very conscious of the fact that my father, who was a bureaucrat, had become a secretary, but he was removed from his secretaryship. You know, he became, at that time, probably the youngest secretary in the Janta government in 1979.
For viewers and listeners who don't know, Dr. Jaishankar's father was Dr. K. Subramaniam, who played a key role in formulating India's strategic doctrine. Sorry for interrupting you.
So in 1980, he was Secretary Defense Production. In 1980, when Indira Gandhi was re-elected, he was the first secretary that she removed. And, you know, he was the most knowledgeable person, everybody would say, on defense. He was also a very upright person. Maybe that caused a problem. I don't know. But the fact was, as a person, he saw his own bureaucratic career in bureaucracy actually kind of stall. And after that, he never became a secretary again. He was superseded during the Rajiv Gandhi period for his, somebody junior to him became cabinet secretary. So it was something he felt. We rarely spoke about it, but it was obviously something which must have been inside him. So he was very, very proud when my elder brother became secretary. And in my case, he passed away in 2011. At that time, I had got what you would call grade 1, which is like a secretary rank ambassador. I didn't become secretary. I became after he passed away. But for us, at that time, the goal, you could say, was, okay, we must become secretary. Now, as I said, I had achieved that goal. So in 2018, I was very happy to kind of walk away into the sunset. I ended up finally walking not into the sunset, but into Tata Sons. I was, I think, contributing my fair bit there. I liked them. I think they liked me. Then completely as a bolt out of blue, the political opportunity came. Now, the political opportunity for me was something I needed to think about, because I was simply not prepared for it. So I did reflect on it briefly due to the pressures of time at that time. When you say what is the difference between the foreign secretary or the bureaucrat Jaishankar and the minister,
thought process,
it's a different world. It's a different responsibility. It's a wider vision. And I put it to people like this. I may have sat 40 years in the parliament gallery. It's not the same as being on the parliament floor. I used to sometimes, in fact, Sushma Swaraj was my minister. And as foreign secretary, we used to talk a lot. I mean, every month we had this practice. We used to have I'd go and see her every day. But of course, day would begin by her actually calling every morning. And I always had the comfort as a secretary. And if I don't want this to sound immodest, I was a confident secretary. I believe I was a good secretary. But I had the confidence that I have a minister and a prime minister above me who, at the end of the day, shoulder that political responsibility. Now, come May 2019, that political responsibility is mine. It's a completely different feeling. As a minister, you have to look at it not departmentally. There may be something, let us say, which is, I'm giving you an example. Say wheat export to some country. As a secretary, I would say, that country's relationship is very important. But as a minister, I'll have to say, okay, what's my own wheat prices looking like? What are the domestic concerns out there? Who else do we need to talk to? Every issue, every major issue has some political angle,
Sure.
which a minister will tend to see much faster than a bureaucrat, however good that bureaucrat may be.
So it's kind of challenging.
Yes, absolutely.
It is. Okay. So I don't know whether you'll answer this question, but I will ask you that who asked you? Was it the Prime Minister? And two, what was the first time that you met Mr. Modi, and what were your first takeaway of that meeting?
Who asked me, meaning who asked me to join the cabinet?
government.
Yes,
Yeah,
the Prime Minister
the
asked
Prime
me.
Minister. Okay.
When did I meet Mr. Modi first? I met him in 2011 in November in Beijing. I never met him before.
Oh, he was Chief Minister then.
He was Chief Minister then.
Okay.
He had come on a visit, and that's how our acquaintance started. I assume, in the light of later events, I must have made a good impression. I can tell you, frankly, he made a very big impression on me, because by 2011, I had already done. I had done what?
Two ambassadorial postings already.
No,
right?
this was my third
one.
Third.
Yeah.
And I'd seen.
So Singapore and Czech.
So I'd seen, people come and go, achievements. I had never met someone better prepared, better, more serious, and also more. I found him very interesting. I give you and this is a person, by the way, we are meeting here for the first time. So we go through this business briefing, what he should say, who he's meeting, etc. Then he said that मैं आपसे अलग बात करना चाहता हूँ, कुछ राजनीतिक विषय हैं, उन पे भी मैं briefing लेना चाहता हूँ. It was a bit of a surprise. No chief minister had done that. And of course, he told me, I mentioned it in one piece I've written, saying, look, it's very important for me that I'm abroad. I may be from a different party, but I shouldn't say or do anything which is different, that too in a country like China. So it's very, I want you to brief me on key issues. And we were having our problems at that time. Even at that time, there was a listing problem. There was staple visas problem. They were not dealing with our northern command. There were, all these Arunachal.
There was some Gujarati diamond.
Yes, there was a bunch of Gujarati
Surat
diamond traders who had also been detained. He brought that up as well. After I was done with him, and we went for the meetings, and then we were riding in the same car. So he said, I have this habit. He said, मैं हर मीटिंग के बाद मैं debrief लेता हूँ, और अगर आपको कहीं कुछ लगता है कि things are not okay, आप इशारा करिए. Okay. So I remember this because, for me, there is a certain manner of working which he has. He's all the time like gauging, sensing, very, very sensitive to this, very keen that he should not make a mistake, that he should convey things accurately, that the policy, that the nuances are captured. This was my first experience of him. After that, I didn't see him till he became Prime Minister.
Okay. Is it the same now? Before he travels, after he travels, when you travel? Is it the same kind of thing? Foreign policy matters, you talk to each other, where he asks questions, you answer, you ask questions, he answers. Is that how it works?
No. it is and it isn't. I mean, intrinsically it is the same, but it's now on a totally different scale and leak.
Sure.
So now what happens is usually, we would strategize before, we spend, usually I'd say even not at the beginning of the year, but even in the previous year, we start thinking, what should we be doing? Where are we going? Who should we engage? That kind of strategy session. When it comes to something specific, it would be like we would go through the details of where we are going. What are the objectives? Who are we meeting? What are their objectives? So there's a kind of I would say strategizing and a game planning which goes well ahead, and then it's repeatedly visited, reviewed. So sometimes even in the midst of meetings, you would see us, one of us lean across and say something to him, or him doing the same. Or if there's a break in a meeting, we would have a quick confabulation. I mean, you could, since ANI films a lot of this, you would often see, there's a quick huddle where you're quickly saying something, we are updating, or he's sharing. He's,
we can't hear though, because there's no microphone.
Fortunate. Thank God you can't hear, because, that would kind of destroy our strategizing.
We should get somebody to see the lip syncing and see what's happening there.
But he's a very discussive person, if you know what I mean. And he has views, but he's very open to, opinion, agreement, disagreement, improvement, mitigation. It's very sort of, how do I say, interactive.
Lots of people say that he's a very ideas kind of a man. In fact, some of the questions were...
So the West, I'm universal. I'm India. Someone to say, I'm doing this because it is for counter-terrorism. You're not fooling anybody by saying these things. Mr. Soros is a old, rich, opinionated person. If I could only stop at old, rich, and opinionated, I would put it away. But he's old, rich, opinionated, and dangerous. Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems. But the world's problems are not Europe's problems. Our total purchases for the month would be less than what Europe does in an afternoon. I don't think we're sitting on the fence. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't make me sitting on the fence. It means I'm sitting on my ground. I'm entitled to have my own side. I'm entitled to weigh my own interests, make my own choices. You're asking the wrong minister when you say, how long will we do this? Because it is the ministers of Pakistan who will tell you how long Pakistan intends to practice terrorism. If you have snakes in your backyard, you can't expect them to bite only your neighbors. Eventually, they will bite the people who keep them in the backyard. If I were to take Europe collectively, which has been singularly silent on many things which were happening, for example, in Asia, you could ask, why would anybody in Asia trust Europe on anything at all? If you are asking me, I would say, yes, 2014 was a watershed moment. Yes, things have changed better after 2014. Yes, our foreign policy has become more dynamic, more effective, more prominent after 2014.
Mr. Modi was very famous and very demanding. So how do you deal with that?
I'm so glad you chose that understated word, demanding. Yes, I think the Prime Minister is demanding. I think he's rightly demanding, because it's time that India had a demanding person as Prime Minister. It's tough to work for a demanding boss, but at the end of the day, you actually, if you feel that's the kind of person the country needs, I think you're willing to do whatever you have to do at that time.
Two democracies will end it differently. And if you can prove that concept here, then I think it's probably the best way to sell democracy.
Don't worry, Senator. One democracy will settle it. And you know which one.
Okay. Lindsey Graham. So this,
right.
So this is what we, my team got this together. Okay. And the same thing about being a demanding prime minister. One has heard about how you have 11 p.m. meetings and 11:30 midnight, post-midnight meetings happen in this cabinet. And it's like working, especially during COVID times when these crises happened, the Ukraine situation where Indian students had to be evacuated. Those are like very tense times, right? And he's on the job all the time.
Well, look, I don't want you to get it wrong. It's not like you particularly want to meet or the meetings happen at 11 o'clock or late at night kind of thing. I think it's a situation. It's partly the prime minister's schedule. But you mentioned, for example, the Ukraine conflict, Operation Ganga. Now, what was happening at that time was that the prime minister was busy campaigning in UP, if you remember at that time. Now,
last year, same time.
Yeah. Now,
24th of February. I think.
A little bit later.
Yeah, 20.
Okay. Now, it could have been, I don't know, maybe some other prime minister would have said, okay, guys, I'm busy with UP now, you go manage this. But I think it bothered him. He felt he needed to get a good sense. I mean, lives were at stake. So we would have situations where he would campaign the whole day, come back to Delhi. I mean, you could see sometimes, how exhausted he was. And then somewhere he would find that energy and the adrenaline. And we would meet late because he's come back late from campaigning. Sometimes the situation would call for it. I think I once mentioned this, maybe in one of those same occasions you showed me right now, where which was our consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif being attacked. And I remember I think it was past midnight, and I also have this habit of staying up late, and I like to clear my desk every day without fail. And in fact, he called up, and normally, some other guy comes up and sort of says the PM wants to talk to you. In this case, it was him. And so I think if there is something happens, he feels, he feels deeply about it. He sort of feels it's not like ask somebody to do something. He wants to know that it's being done. Now, mind you, having said that, I also say this as his working style, that once an objective is achieved or a mission is set or whatever it is, you get the space to then carry it out.
Okay.
So say Operation Ganga, I mean, he would want to know what we were doing. He would sometimes give suggestions saying, अच्छा आप ये कभी इसके बारे में सोचा, कभी इसका भी देखिएगा, वहाँ भी ये करिए. But it was not like he was wanting to, get down. He trusted you with the details. And that's why, I mean, for me, the sort of, I would say, the pleasure of working with him. I mean, what does anybody need from a boss? You need from a boss somebody who gives you a goal with clarity, who, whatever their thoughts, ideas, etc. share. Then if you are the experienced operational person, you leave them to figure out how it is done. You take your feedback. You might want to course correct, but he gives you a lot of the space, and which is why I think if you look at the last 7-8 years of Indian foreign policy, we are able to move. I mean, I give you why Operation Ganga. I'll give you Operation Dost right now.
Yeah, Turkey. Yes,
Turkey. The earthquake happened. I mean, I think literally in a very, very short time, he wanted to know what are our thoughts. I kind of sent in our thoughts. I very quickly consulted, my people in my own ministry. And literally within a few minutes, we were told, okay, you got the go now, go, talk to NDRF, whatever.
Yeah, in 48 hours, if I'm not mistaken, that they were already there.
We were less than 48
Less than 48 hours. Yeah. You were talking about delegation and about getting things in order quickly. We've seen videos of the Cabinet Committee on Security, CCS meetings. It looks like this is the creme de la creme of the cabinet. Everybody getting together, very serious looking, very tough. and you all look like, बहुत पहाड़ टूट पड़ा है, कुछ होने वाला है, कुछ बड़ा. What happens in these meetings? We saw that Uri, Balakot, Pulwama, Ganga, Operation Ganga. We saw this during COVID times. With how do these meetings take place? What happens? Does everybody input, output? What happens there?
No, it would vary. See, if there's a larger meeting, usually there would be some kind of briefer uh, in any meeting, because somebody has to put the proposition, and then obviously then the floor kind of gets opened up. Typically, the Prime Minister comes in sort of late, I would say. I mean, he allows people to speak before he actually says anything. That would be a norm. We may look very serious because usually when CCS meets, it's a serious matter. You know, the routine CCS meeting, we have,
Sure.
if there is something which some agreement or purchase or something needs to be cleared, often you don't get the photo of it because you yourself would not be covering it. So you would not, most of the pictures you do have would be of occasions like Uri or post Galwan, where the situation is serious. And I think it's obviously reflected on our...
Because there's no briefing after the CCS. We never get to know what happened.
Yes, but you look, I think governments at the end of the day are supposed to focus on governance. No? So if you have, I mean, if there are decisions you made which need to be executed, you're not going to come and tell the press, guys, we just made this decision and that is how it is going to be executed.
Okay. So now let me come to, when we were talking about how you do your briefings to the Prime Minister, you do your briefings to the cabinet. What happens when you're with parliamentary committees? There is the opposition also out there.
Parliament? Or
in Parliament. But the parliamentary committees, there are opposition members also, right? The Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Oh, okay. Consultative committee.
Consultative committee.
Sure.
Right? So there are people from the opposition also in that.
Sure.
So how do you convince them about policy matters?
Well, I have only experience of my own committee because both as Foreign Secretary and as EAM, I've dealt with them. The way I deal with them is we take a subject, we tell them this is the subject. Normally we take something very topical, and then we would have again a presenter. Often it would be the Foreign Secretary, could be some other secretary, normally not. Then I open it and encourage everybody to have their say. And then what would happen is, in some cases, the presenter may respond, but I would, as a minister, respond to every one of the comments which are made by every one of the members.
Okay.
So my intent of doing that is really, one, to underline to them that we take them seriously, to not them seriously, but their concerns seriously. Two, it does help in kind of carrying them along and sometimes in convincing them, though politics is politics, so sometimes whether they're convinced or not, they would not admit it.
Rahul Gandhi didn't get convinced by you. In fact, he said that I think you were, I don't know the exact words, but I think he said that you did not know much about foreign policy matters. You needed to learn a little more.
Well, let me put it to you more accurately. This wasn't at a parliamentary committee. In parliamentary committees, we have interacted, but usually what happens in parliamentary committee, I try to keep to myself, so I will not get into it with you either. This, I think, was something he said at some kind of public meeting somewhere.
That you don't know much about.
I think he, look, I cannot vouch for the exact words either, but I think it was probably in the context of China, if I remember right.
Yeah, he's not convinced about China.
Yeah, but I mean,
he thinks that you are opaque about it.
I don't know whether it's opaque or whether, there was a sort of a level of knowledge, understanding. I mean, all I can say in my defense is I have been the longest serving ambassador in China. I have been dealing with a lot of these border issues for a very, very long time. I would say, let me put it to you this way. I'm not suggesting I'm necessarily the most knowledgeable person, but I would have a fairly good self-opinion of my understanding of what is out there.
Okay.
But if he has superior knowledge, wisdom, I'm always, as I said, for me, life is a learning process.
Superior knowledge, wisdom on China.
If he has, I'm always willing to listen.
Okay. And learn from Mr. Rahul Gandhi on China.
If you think that that's a possibility, I have never closed my mind to anything, however improbable it is.
Okay. All right. 4 years as foreign minister of India and 9th year of the Modi foreign policy. What is the report card like?
I think it's a very solid report card. Number one, if you look today at our global standing, which is a very intangible measure of success, but it's a very visible measure of success. You ask yourself, 2023, when a Prime Minister of India, in this case, Narendra Modi, convenes a meeting, walks up on a global stage, or a conference, how do people react? Compare it with even with him 5 years ago, perhaps with his predecessors, many of them. I would say today our global standing is clearly very much higher, is quite good, quite strong. Number two, strategically, I think there is today much greater clarity in our own thinking and in our own operations. And I say that as an implementer of foreign policy, that, people know there's a neighborhood first. Neighborhood first means build your connectivity and your contacts, and this is your first priority. Then they know there's an extended neighborhood to the west towards the Gulf, to the east, ASEAN, to the South Sagar, Central Asia. There's a set of policies which do that. Then they know there's a policy of engaging the major powers. They know there's an Africa focus. So there is today a lot of strategic clarity about our strategy, and that's necessary if you are serious about operationalizing it. Third, in terms of operationalizing it, we do today projects in almost 80 countries in the world. It's, most Indians don't realize how much we do abroad today, and those are often the test of our credibility. And there's been a huge improvement there, that projects which would often lie for years, unfinished, struggling for something, the efficiency of that has improved. On big global issues today, I think the expectation is that India would have a say. They would have a voice. They would have an opinion, and they would, if necessary, have more than that. And this could be climate change, it could be counterterrorism, it could be black money. I mean, you look at the big, it could be something like maritime security, even today, trade, investment, that domain, technology. Then I would also, point to the fact that we have been able to very clearly demonstrate to the world that we are an exceptional international power, meaning we are willing to do things for others, perhaps more than most other countries are at this point of time. One is this sort of first responder record we have built up. Turkey is the latest, that if something happens, if it is reasonable, if it is within the realm of possibility, India is there early. India
Operation Maitri also.
Maitri, Operation, I can give you
so many, yes,
a whole list of these. Rahat in Yemen, Sankat Mochan in Sudan.
But the COVID vaccine is something
I
that
was
touched
coming. I was coming to that.
Yeah.
Those are one country or one region or one situation. If you ask me, a single thing we have done in the last 10 years which has shaped global views about us, I think it is vaccine Maitri.
Yeah.
That it's almost I would say not it's almost emotional to hear what people come and tell you about that.
And yet there was criticism at that time, if you remember, Dr. Jaishankar, because people said you haven't managed to, or we haven't managed to vaccinate all of our population, and here we were sending vaccines abroad. There was a lot of criticism then.
I don't know if there was a lot, because I think people
Domestically, at least there
No,
was.
I think there was loud criticism from the expected quarters. I would not consider it lot of criticism. It's very interesting in this country. You would have people who, when you do things, say, why are you doing it? When you're not doing it, say, why are you not doing it? If there's consistency, the consistency is in opposition to anything you do. Okay. The fact is, I think most people in this country understood that, it's the right thing to do. And let me tell you one thing. When Delta wave came, because it wasn't only the vaccines. Before that, there was a hydroxychloroquine, there was a paracetamol, etc. Think how many countries did their bit to help us. And some of them, like, say, President Biden, the Americans, they said very clearly, saying that, look, India helped us and we are going to help India. So, this very sort of short-sighted view. And sometimes, as I said, the people who claim to be internationalists suddenly become super nationalist. Beware of such people. Because
I am going to come to that,
yes.
whether we are hypersensitive as a country, to criticism, because you saw that little video that I played in which George Soros' statement on democracy, you took on, and you said that, you said he was old, rich, opinionated,
No,
and
I know what I
dangerous.
said.
Right. Now, there's also the op-eds which come in foreign media, which say that that they blame India for crony capitalism, and say Mr. Modi's image has got hurt. The BJP, on the other hand, says that there's a conspiracy against India, rising India, and Mr. Modi's muscular policies,
sure,
and then
sure.
it would be nicer to have a meek and submissive India.
Look, Smita, I have dealt with the world for a long time. I have dealt with the media. I even had a media job at one point of time. Okay. I want you to step back. Don't think incident by incident. They say this, something happened. You said this, they said this, the media said that. I don't want you to do that, because you're really losing the woods for the trees. I want you to step back and think the last 9-10 years. Okay. What you have from different quarters is, an episode there, a decision here, an adjective added here, a photograph done there. It's like drip, 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 like water on stone. The whole idea is to shape your image, your collective image. Shape it in a way in which you're made to look extremist, you're made to look unreasonable, you are made to look as though, you're not part of this, what is otherwise a great, good, progressive world. Okay. Now, it happens in different ways. Every time we make a major decision, you talk about us being hypersensitive. I would put it to you. Look at the hypersensitivity of the media. Look how people jumped up and down when Article 370 was decided upon. Now, or even this example that millions of people will lose their citizenship. And then see sometimes the dishonesty of
the CAA one that you're talking
see
about.
the dishonesty of it. You had reports, and I'm not personalizing it. I've got nothing against individual A or B or newspaper A or B, but each one of them has contributed their bit. Okay. You actually have people who would suggest problems in Assam are because of Narendra Modi. Now, you and I know, come on, this is Indira Gandhi's time. Okay, but that is whitewashed. You have people who say, oh, there's serious problem with judiciary because there's an ex-chief justice who's now entered parliament. Is it for the first time? No, there was Ranganath Mishra did it earlier. So, our institutions come under attack. Suddenly, as I tell people, say what you will for me. To me, which one of us doubts our election commission? Which one of us goes to vote and thinks the result is not what is true and, capturing the integrity of the process? And yet what will happen? That comes under pressure. So there is an attempt, and it's a very, very clever attempt, and it takes different forms. We had a very, very tough time during COVID.
So are you saying it's all coordinated?
No. I think there is a mindset. I think the mindset, I would say there's an ideology. I give you the example of COVID. Okay, I grant you, we went through a horrible time in COVID. I mean, many of us lost people in our families, friends, acquaintances. Look at the coverage of our COVID. Did people not die in other countries? Did we see that coverage out there? Did you see that kind of photograph from other countries? I mean, you heard of bodies piled up in parking lots in other countries.
Yeah.
So I'm putting it to you this way. Look, I do think that one of the challenges today is you have, due to, in my view, and you may or may not agree with it, over 70, 75 years, what has happened is actually democracy has worked in this country. And the proof of democracy working in this country is cities, if you look, where is your leadership coming from? They are no longer the people necessarily from big cities and English-speaking schools. Okay? They are people of a different background. And again, I'm not talking individual here. I'm talking of a generalized phenomenon. You look at the mindset of this society. This society today has become much more assured about what it believes in. There was a time when actually you kind of kept that as though, you're not supposed to talk about your cultural beliefs in front of other people. So you actually have a huge change.
Did you experience that when you were in JNU? Not talk about Indian culture. JNU, that was in the 80s, 70s. In the 70s. Look, you're diffident about your own culture. I mean, I saw this comment in which you said one of the greatest diplomats that India has was Lord Krishna, and there was Lord Hanuman. You mentioned him also, and it's not something that is spoken about in diplomatic circles, and even in the media, the beat journalists would never think of diplomats, and not even you. And when you think about it, your background, your journalism, your education.
Well, yes and no, because
it's a socialist hub.
No. I also had a lot of home education. Okay. Say JNU was different. I was 18 when I went to JNU. Okay, and JNU was very, very firmly leftist at that time, and I think everything at 18, what you intuitively believe is either formed by your friends and acquaintances or what is reflective of your home. And definitely in our home, my father, who was a very strong influence on us, was very distrustful of ideologies and people who he believed were not, who did not have the loyalties in our own country.
Such as?
Well, you look, you're not talking. Remember, he had his own views about what was happening in the 40s and 50s at that time, who was for the national movement, where did different people, how did they switch? Remember at that time, China, there was a big China issue. I mean, we are.
Okay, you're talking the war and things.
No. War
or the revolution. Okay.
Yeah. So he particularly, I think, had he was very, very distrustful of the left, so of the communist left. And I think some of it, so in a sense, we grew up very unspokenly, but very strongly as very patriotic children,
Hmm.
you might say. We kind of went to these military institutions. I went to Air Force School, to King George's Bangalore Military School. My siblings went to, some of them went to Naval School, to Sardar Patel Vidyalaya. So I think that was the kind of mindset I took into JNU. So in fact, in JNU, which was a dominantly leftist outlook, where the teachers, the students, the administration, everybody was very leftist, my lot of people, my cohort were the first set of people who actually politically took on the left.
Okay.
And actually, we had a meeting, we had an election even where the then Prakash Karat was the SFI candidate. He won one election, he lost one election. So I
Where did you stand in that?
Oh, I was very clearly with what was called the free thinkers.
Free thinkers.
Yeah, free
Okay.
thinkers was a assortment, because other than the left, there was no other political.
And there was no tukre in those days.
No, that all that came very much later. So I would say that sense of nationalism, connection to country, this was kind of instilled in us. On the cultural question, it was very interesting. When I did my book, I have a chapter on the Mahabharata in the book. And one of the Delhi journalists asked me this question, said, I find that a very surprising. I said, yeah, partly because maybe you don't know me that well. But we learned, all of us, I'm talking my siblings as well, we read Mahabharata very early. In fact, very often it was the subject of discussion in our house and we approached, a lot of it was approached as strategy, as, in a sense, what our own epics. And by the way, we were a very, I would say, cosmopolitan household. It wasn't, the same father also gave us Iliad and Odyssey and other things as well.
Okay. So you had Homer on one side and you had the Mahabharata on the other side.
And a lot of things in between.
And a lot of things.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm sure you had Plato and Aristotle too.
I'm a political science student.
Yes.
I actually studied those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to come to this whole thing about the sensitivity issue. Do you feel that, because many say that ban this and ban that, do you believe that that is a solution to it? Banning a documentary here, banning a book there, asking a channel not to broadcast in India?
No. Look, I don't think that you're asking the right question. I'd ask you a counter question. What is it we are debating? We are not debating just a documentary or a speech that somebody gave in a European city or New York, a newspaper edit somewhere. We are debating actually politics, which is being conducted ostensibly as media, so there is a phrase, war by other means. There is also, think of it, this is politics by another means. You'll do a hatchet job, then you want to do a hatchet job and say, well, this is just another quest for truth which we decided after 20 years to put out at this time. So come on, you think the timing is accidental? Let me tell you one thing. I don't know if election season has started in India and Delhi or not, but for sure it has started in London and New York.
Okay. So this is what it is, that, there's a lot that is being said, that the rise of Mr. Modi and consequently the rise of India, these two things are happening at the same time, which is not acceptable to people in these Western capitals that you're talking, and certain Indian quarters too. Do you agree with that point of view?
Do you doubt it?
I'm asking you.
No, look who welcomes
because Ashley Tellis, Ashley Tellis, right?
Who are cheerleaders.
Your friend.
Let me answer your question. What is happening is, just like I told you, this drip, drip, drip. How do you shape a very extremist image of India, of the government, of the BJP, of the Prime Minister? This has been going on for a decade. Okay, let's not have illusions about it. How some of this has a different variant, which is you will say something, there's an echo chamber, it'll be picked up outside. Then you say, aha, see, they're saying it outside. That must be true. Then you will say it inside. So there's a ding dong going on. See, look, this is a globalized world. People take that politics abroad. Politics of India doesn't stop at its borders. Sometimes politics of India doesn't even originate in its borders. It comes from outside. Ideas come from outside, agendas come from outside. Otherwise, please tell me why suddenly, there's a surge of reports and, attention and views. I mean, were some of these things not happening earlier? I mean, I gave you the example of Assam.
Yeah.
I mean, people speak about, okay, you had to make a documentary. Many things happened in Delhi in 1984. Why didn't we see a documentary on that? If that was your concern, that you felt suddenly one day, okay, I'm very humanistic and I must get justice for people who have been done wrong. So look, don't kid yourself. This is politics at play. This is politics at play by people who do not have the courage to come into the political field. They want to have the Teflon cover saying that, I'm an NGO, I'm a media organization, etc. But they're playing politics. You know that, I know that.
How does BJP react to this? Is it, or your government for that matter, is it reaction? Is it a reactionary measure that you have to take? How do you counter this?
I think we will put our point of view across, and as should be rightfully done in a democracy, eventually the public will give its verdict.
Which is the electorate.
That's what
it's only by the ballot that these things. If he gets re-elected, that means that they have been proven wrong. Is that it? Is that what you're saying?
Look, I would say yes, among other things, because in a democracy, don't you trust the ballot box and the people's verdict to be the final opinion? I do. I know there are some people who believe that their view supersedes elections. So, in fact, by the way, I mean, even that, look at this term. I like you, you win election, great democracy. I don't like you, you win election. What are you? Electoral autocracy.
Yeah, I heard that term.
What a great term, right? That's reserved for people you don't like who win elections. So this is politics, my dear.
So if there's so much money going to be pumped in, how does India react? How does India even deal with it when you don't know that there's one enemy or this is amorphous entity?
Look, I would say I think there should be and there is a battle for narratives which goes on. There will be narratives designed to damage us. We have to put out narratives designed to expose people or designed to put our viewpoint across. I think we will. My own sense is that most people will, through their, this is a pretty informed age. That era when people had only one or two sources and they controlled thinking. I think that's gone by a long time ago.
Let me come to the foreign policy issues, which I said we'll do in the second half of it. Increasingly domestic issues and the foreign policy have become interlinked. Foreign policy matters used to be something which domain-specific people handled it and foreign beat journalists demystified it for you. But it's no longer the case. And one saw it happening, during COVID, when everybody wanted to know, why are we giving it to this country? Why not to that country? How much are we giving? Do we have enough? Then there was the CAA, there was the farmers' protest, there was Nupur. There was so much that was happening. How do you deal with this? It's like literally, that game that children play where you go on beating things. It was like that in that 2-year period. Was really tough.
No. I was smiling at the imagery you invoked. Now, look, in a globalized era, what happens is that everything from the world comes to India. Everything from India goes out. In many ways, it's a good thing. It has its own challenges. It has its own vulnerabilities. So how does it impact us? That's really your question.
Yeah.
What it does is I have to often, as part of my narrative setting, explain things to foreign audiences. So I give you an example. Take this whole scaremongering that millions of people are going to lose citizenship. Now, you tell people saying that, look, this was said. Now, 1 year has passed, 2 years has passed, 3 years. Where are these people? This, after all, we are supposed to have a cataclysm in 2020. So, and when you, even citizenship, when you start reasoning with people, ask them saying, okay, tell me, do you not have a criteria of citizenship? Do you not use language? Or some people use religion. People use language, they use religion, they use education. Some of them even use income. Some use ethnicity. So when you tell people saying, look, reflect on your citizenship practice. I mean, what do you do? So often what happens is, and see, that's where the battle of narratives is very powerful. Read the bulk of international papers, especially the Anglosphere papers, but all of them. How many of them tell you 370 was a temporary provision? I challenge you to show me one. They don't. It's written there in bold letters, in capital letters in the Constitution.
But then that's because India itself didn't put across that point of view,
No,
right?
no,
It's like the plebiscite.
No,
it is true.
sorry. Listen, I can put across something. If you have shut your ears to it, no amount of hammering away at it.
It's not. See, when Kashmir was being discussed, Pakistan used to keep saying plebiscite, plebiscite, plebiscite. Till the 90s, that word plebiscite kept hammering. It was, that it is a disputed issue. Till India's narrative started being heard. Unless you are loud and you impose your narrative, you don't get heard in the world.
No, I completely agree with you, Smita. So I try not to be loud. I try to get my narrative across in an elegant and effective way, maybe at times sharper than people may want. But I accept your point that we need to get our narrative across, and that is exactly what we are trying to do in foreign policy. But I also put it to you sometimes that I feel that I'm talking to an audience which is deliberately deaf, that they do not want to hear sometimes, they do not want to absorb sometimes. That and there is a very strong bias. I mean, let's be frank about it. Newspapers, there are newspapers, I don't want to go into names, who will publish something absolutely ridiculous on one side, and you say, okay, I want to counter it. They say, no, hang on a moment, I'm busy doing a fact check on what you are saying. So we saw this bias very, very clearly over the last 4 years. I think in fact, I expect it to, if anything, grow as the election comes closer, because I don't think, this is without a political direction and purpose.
So domestic politics playing a part.
Domestic politics, it could be domestic politics, it could be COVID, it could be, it could be different.
Big business playing its part also.
It could be. Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Okay, what I'm explaining to you is actually politics at work.
Okay,
it doesn't have to be conspiracy at work.
Okay.
Why is it difficult to understand that there are ideologies and political forces outside India very similar to those in India, and the two are working hand in glove? I mean, I'm putting a perfectly common sense proposition before you. And part of the problem is when political forces in India are not doing so well electorally, they tend to kind of summon up this this support system, if you would, or the echo chamber, or call it what you would.
They are the Congress party is saying that that the Indian government is, the Modi government is defensive, reactive when it comes to China. That neither Mr.